Hello, good afternoon. How are we all? I hope you're doing well. Jumping in live here to talk about how we compare two options in terms of resources. So, going with packaging option one or packaging option two, or going with electric vehicles versus diesel, whatever it may be. I want to talk through the process of how we decide what is a more sustainable option. So I often get asked this question, like questions like this, really. Like, what do you think about EVs? Are they really better than diesel? Or do you think that we should go for the plastic packaging option because, it does last longer over the glass packaging option, whatever it is, right? And so there's never a simple answer. So I usually start to answer, and the person senses, okay, this is going to be long. I've got to settle in for that long answer now, because I've gone and asked Meryl, who's probably going to rattle on. But the thing is, there isn't a simple answer, because it isn't just simply a matter of, well, plastic is not good for the environment, so we should never use plastic. There's more to it. In some instances, for example, like with beverage companies, the plastic bottles can, depending on the beverage, can tend to hold the shelf life for much longer. So when you think about the energy that you've put into manufacturing and moving this product onto the shelf and then getting it to the customer by the time they actually buy it off the shelf, it's got a longer shelf life, so it will last longer and not as likely get put into the bin. All of that energy, time, cost, resources down the bin. And that's not the case as much with the plastic option versus the glass option. So we have to always ask all of the right questions before we can give you an answer. And so some of the things that I think are super important to ask when we're considering any of these kinds of very complex questions is you really want to know, okay, so what is the critical material impacts, right, of current situation, of the current operations? If we weren't to change anything, what are the material impacts currently of business as usual? And then you want to know, okay, so if we're going to change things, like what defines the boundary of the system within which we're going to change things, and what is also the impact of that system within that boundary? So what's the footprint and so on? Obviously in relation to what we're thinking about, whether it's fuel, whether it's packaging materials, whatever it is. And then once you've thought about that, then you've got to look at, okay, what are the options for change and what's that life cycle analysis outcome from each option? If we were to go down route one, pathway two, option A, option B, what is the life cycle analysis of that? And once you've considered that, then the business can say, okay, now we know the impacts of changing over. Let's think about, where does our business really want to be? You probably want to do this actually before the life cycle, but you really want to go, well, where does my business want to be in the future? And what does that future look like in terms of growth, in terms of client capacity and the people, our remit, who we serve, etc. And once you know that gap of getting to that future, the life cycle outcomes of which option will cause which impact and what change and so on, then you can start to create a priority structure on what's the best option to move forward, and finally start to build a strategic pathway towards that correct option. So never answer these questions with limiting ideas around, one or two thought patterns, or not so much thought patterns, but one or two facets of the problem, because usually when you're talking about sustainability, firstly, there's never just option A and option B. It's usually option A to Z. And often it's much more complex. It's so multifaceted. And so you really need to go through the entire process of asking the right questions and determining what's that best strategically aligned pathway forward. So that's my thoughts on this. I hope you find it valuable. Hope you're having an incredible day wherever you are, and take care of yourselves. I will talk to you soon. Bye.